Good evening and welcome to another in the series of TalkSports, where we sit down and chat with the movers and shakers of sports in Grenada. This week our guest is Fitzgerald Joseph, affectionately called Naka. Naka is the coach of the Grenada national basketball team up until the last tournament the team played, and he's also an organizer of sports in the Parish of St John, and most recently the author of a book, The Energy of Gouyave, History of Sports in the Parish of St. John. I welcome Naka Joseph to this evening's program. Good evening to you, Naka.
Yeah, good evening, Michael, and thanks for having me.
Okay, well, nice having you on on this evening's program. And first off, I would like to ask you, Naka, in this COVID times, as we say, in this pandemic time, how have you been coping with the ongoing pandemic?
Um, so far so good. I try to follow the protocols established by Ministry of Health and making sure that you wear a mask when you go into the public. I've not been going out that much because I'm retired now, so I'm home most of the time. I'm also the coach of Sparklers basketball team, as you are aware, for the last 42 years this year. So we have not been given permission to start back practice as yet. So we are not back out on the court. So in the meantime, I'm just home, just doing some stuff, maybe doing some writing and doing some research, etc.
Okay.
But so far so good.
Yeah, you said you're retired now, right?
Yeah, from work, because a lot of people felt that I used to be working in the Ministry of Sports, but I worked at one of the insurance companies. So you could call me the original volunteer.
Okay. But Naka is interesting. You just mentioned because more than 40 years as basketball coach in Grenada, and we'll get to the meat of the matter in a moment in terms of
Yeah.
talking about sports in the parish of St. John and about your book, etc. But obviously, as a basketball coach and one who has been at the helm of basketball coaching, not just in the parish, but on the national level, and you have been involved for the better part of 40 years for coaching in basketball. Do you think that basketball has received its fair share in the development of sports in Grenada?
I guess I could put that question to you.
Well, I'm asking you.
But no, I say, but maybe you could answer some of it. When you say fair share, this year, for instance, it's 22 years since we have not had primary school basketball. We tried to revive that in 1997, 98, and then after that we went on a lull. We didn't get the necessary assistance to go forward. Also, in 2018, it was 28 years since basketball returned to the Caribbean Basketball Championship. So when you say getting fair share, I mean, we have went through some really tough times, seeing that our association is not blessed by the parent company, like how FIFA would pump millions of dollars into football, or West Indies cricket would assist with national cricket development, and the NOC for most of the funds that they receive would pump it into track and field, and some of the other associations would get a little bit here and there. But our association is not blessed with that, so most of the time we're struggling. We didn't have an indoor facility. We try on numerous occasions to get my indoor facility whereby we could have ongoing competitions to try and raise funds for ourselves. But after 42 years, like I tell you, we still out on the concrete. So, and that is only some of the things. I mean, I could give you a whole history for that 42 years where basketball, I mean, it has been rough going, but somehow, some way, I mean, we just happen to survive. And, you really have to give a lot of credit to some of the people, some of the corporate people that helped, some of the players that went out and they continue to assist players as well. So we continue to fight on and they did pretty well, especially some of the players. They did pretty well.
But outside of the technical aspect, in terms of what you have been involved in terms of coaching, in terms of the administration of the sport in particular, would you say that the administration of the sport has been in peril for a while in terms of inactivity for some reason or the other, and then there was all sorts of problems with the administration of basketball in Grenada?
No, I thought basketball administration we did well like everybody else. We had up and downs, but if we go back to 1987, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, we had Raymond Still, myself, Winston Gawi, Winzap Joseph, and all the other members. But we had a pretty good run because after Grenada
Paul,
won in 1986,
you also had
we
Paul Roberts, eh?
Paul Roberts came after
Okay.
as president. Yeah, he came after. He came in 2000 and when I left. He came in 2009. So during that period of time was myself, when Mohawk left as general secretary, that's Mr. Raymond Steele. Gawi took up, I think Leonard Andrews held there for a while. We had Carlton Frederick as president. We had one or two presidents came in there and served. But the administrative side of the basketball, Kester Cyrus as well, was not the problem. The problem was that we just wasn't getting any funding to do the necessary competitions and so forth, and we were just, in most cases, and we were struggling. For instance, um, all the secondary school sports was run by the Ministry of Sports during that period of time, 1991, 92. But basketball, I had to run basketball out of the office because the ministry said that they did not have a coach in the ministry. Hess Charles was there, ex-national player, and he was in a position to do the work, and they said they doesn't have a coach to handle that area, so they choose not to run basketball. So basketball was run out of the office for years. Myself and Winston Gawe, we doing all this stuff there until a coach was placed in the ministry in 2004. That Anthony Benjamin, and then the ministry started running competitions again for basketball in secondary school. So I think it's not a question. Yes, we had some problems with the administration. We had some lull, but we always had people there in the position of president, secretary, and whatever. But without the funding, it's difficult for you to really go forward. You just can't do much without any funding. And all of us competing in a small space where all the disciplines have to be asking the same people, cooperate people for funding. So unless you get some source, maybe diaspora wise or the other, it was very difficult. So you just had to do what you had to do in the circumstance.
Okay. But despite all that, challenges, as you would have outlined, you would say that the basketballers themselves were able to hold their own by the results of so many of them who have attained scholarships, and in fact some of them are actually back in Grenada, and those who are even out playing professional basketball.
Yeah, it was really, tough going for us because most of the times I had to operate because I got myself into some areas where I had to sort of backtrack a bit. In 2009, sort of stay out at the free for a bit because of the amount of leagues that was coming down, with the basketball. So I had also back off a bit because I could remember in one of the CANOC meeting, that is the Caribbean Association of National Olympic Committee meeting, I raised the point that, enough has not been done for coaching, and we need to have coaches visit the US because the coaches that was coming in were just focused on teaching fundamentals, but you have coaches there that was coaching teams, so they wanted some ideas, some methodology in terms of how to put this whole team thing together. And I thought it was necessary to send out some of the coaches because I've been going on a number of coaching clinics in the universities and so forth. Of course, I had also used my own funding to do that because you're not getting any assistance to, and I raised that at one of the meetings, and I even wrote a letter in 1999, as you would see here, to the GOC there, all right, in 99, asking for 3 coaches. I've worked out all the information out there with some of the universities to get the coaches and them out, and still we couldn't get it out. I got no response from that, so you just had to keep struggling on. I tried to change things around by buying videos and stuff and copying them, making copies and sharing it out to all the coaches. We tried to I did some stuff where I would take stuff from some of the videos, do some local content with it, and we was able to get that out on Grenada Cable Vision. So at least some of the secondary school coaches and some of the other coaches so that get an idea in terms of the whole question of preparation, because that was critical for us, because a lot of the schools and some of the teams would come into tournaments not prepared. So I tried to sell them on that idea that you need to prepare before you come into any tournaments and so forth. That it worked a bit for us on by spreading that. We had a sort of basketball con and Grenada Cable Vision for a number of years until eventually they stopped it.
Okay, so after all of that, Naka, and all that you have said, all that we have discussed so far, I know we have to go on to the our big issue of sports in the parish. What has happened to basketball? I mean, forget the pandemic. What has happened to basketball in Grenada? We haven't had local basketball, well, for what I know, basketball tournaments for a period of time. I know St. John's, or Gouyave to be exact, has been the mecca of club championships of recent. But what has gone wrong? What has happened?
No, we had national tournaments in 2016 and 2017.
Yeah, but
those tournaments was won by
but
we had secondary school tournaments. Huh?
This is 2020, yeah?
Yeah, well, you have a pandemic. You don't expect anybody
Yeah,
to
and
go out and play basketball.
yeah, and I said just prior to the pandemic, I was looking at
Right. So I told you we had basketball tournaments in 2016, national tournament 2017. We had our tournament in 2018 in Gouyave, and then we had the national team preparing for the CBC tournament.
That's your tournament we're talking about. I'm talking about
you had my tournament.
Organized championship in Grenada.
Right, but you had 2016 and 2017. You say you wasn't hearing anything, but I tell you, we had two tournaments back to back. The association organized that, and then you had my tournament, and then the association spent a lot of time in the preparation of a national team, because we had not gone to a CBC tournament in 28 years, and I knew that take up a lot of the time. All right. They also had what you call a sort of business tournament where the businesses like Hubbards and Hoggins, I think that tournament ran last year when we had a visiting team from Antigua came in and played against some of the teams as well. So we had tournaments, maybe within a tournament 2020 and maybe 2019, but we had tournaments in the last 5 years. That's from association standpoint. I mean, I'm not a member of the executive of the association, but I continue to learn whatever support necessary. When they call on me for any assistance, I will do so.
Okay, but you see, as it's been asking, and someone is asking, Bull Williams, now what happened for the past 2 years? Naka,
well,
you okay for that's why I said,
yeah,
St. John's, or Gouyave to be exact, has been the mecca of club championships. But on the national level, we have not had, probably since 2016, any organized club championship.
You are 2017.
Okay. Well, then in 2020, what happened in 2018, 2019? I mean, yes.
2018, like I told you, we had our tournament, which happened earlier in the year, and then the focus of the association.
And when you say our, you're referring to St. John's.
We're talking about the St. John's, yeah.
All right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. St. John's could be the exception.
Yeah.
On the national level, I'm thinking, I don't want you to mix it up.
I'm not mixing it up. You see, right, the reason why, like I told you earlier on, that basketball, as far as the association was concerned, the executive, is the whole question of funding. I mean, if you don't have a place to run tournaments to collect funding, you have to rely on maybe National Lotteries Authority or Ministry of Sports, somebody, some corporates, somebody to give you the necessary funding. And if you're sending out letters and you're not getting no funding, I mean, it's difficult. How would the National Association have any tournament without funding? It just doesn't happen in this time. Maybe before, people used to volunteer, but things have changed drastically over the last couple of years. Hence the reason why you have a lot of people volunteering.
And as we speak, there is a functioning National Association, okay?
Yes, there is. And I'm telling you, if you go back for the last let me go back last 12, 13 years, that group that is there right now, I think that they did pretty well in the circumstances that they're functioning in. I even wanted to raise that point with you, Michael, before we go on to Gouyave, is that if you take a look at this book here, all right, this book here is from, that is the first book that I did, from Tigers to Sparklers. I did that in 2012, covering basketball in Grenada. And one of the reasons why we did that book, one of the reasons why I did that book was to sort of make sure that the history of basketball is documented, because we was not even getting coverage in terms of media coverage to that extent, where people knew what was happening with the basketball. Even players that was in colleges, players that was getting scholarships, we had absolutely no coverage whatsoever. I mean, we took some serious leaks in the basketball. And I mean, basketball in that circumstance, I think they did pretty well to survive even to this period now. Because at one point I was thinking that the whole problem with the basketball is almost systemic. I mean, you can't get coverage from media. You can't get funding. You can't get no assistance to send players out on scholarship. I remember Joel Phillip talking to you, is it last week or week before? And he was mentioning when they received funding to go to the college, where the ministry came up with this program where they was giving them about 100,000, 100 and something thousand they spent to get track and field athletes out. I went to the minister and I asked him if the same could be, some assistance could be provided for basketball players, and I would ensure that the players are prepared before we go there. So if they're not in shape, we would not send them out there as basketball players, right? We still didn't get no assistance. We had to struggle on our own to prepare those players on a Saturday morning. Lo and behold, a couple of them, we get invitation to Barbados in 2007, if I could remember, with Austin and Ian Adams. And we went up there, and other 44 participants, only the Grenadians received scholarship in 2007. So we still had to battle on our own. So I'm not saying the basketball executive or even basketball coaches and basketball lovers in particular, we had to take some blows, but look at the conditions in which we had to function. It has been really tough for us going over the last, 42 years on the ground, and I'm telling you, it's not easy.
All right, well, we probably will come back to basketball, because obviously
no problem. Anytime anybody want to ask anything on basketball, they could ask me. I have stuff here that I could talk to you about, even 99, where I wrote to Michael Olivier, because
sports coordinator at the
time. Yes, because he took over from Reds.
Right.
And I went to the US, I think it was to Arizona University, and while there, I think Lou Dawson and them had this team from Russia, Moscow Dynamos. They were playing a series of matches with some of the Division I schools. And they beat the team from Moscow really bad. And he asked me if we don't have any teams in the Caribbean that could play much better than that. I tell him, yeah, we could put teams together to come up here. He said, well, you need to do that, because we pay a fee of $10,000 per game for visiting teams. And if you could get a team to come up, he gave me some of the contacts, which is Basketball Traveler Tour and Competitive Sports Inc., that I call and talk to those people and them. And when we work on the logistics, it was going to cost Grenada about $80,000 to put a Windwards or OECS team together. We were going to train in Trinidad for 6 weeks. And we were going to play at least 7 games up in the US, right? And that was going to bring in a revenue of 70,000 US, 10,000 per game. And it was costing us about 80,000 EC, right, to do such. And I did a proposal, if you could see that here, to Michael Oliver, right? If you could see that there. And also to Dwight Venner and the General Secretary of the NOC. And the bank refused. They tell me that they was putting money into under 23 netball.
And when you say the bank, you're referring to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank.
Caribbean Central Bank, yeah. I wrote to Dwight Venner, because okay, I spoke to a guy who was an advisor to him, who is something Sydney, I think was the name, from St. Lucia. And he asked me to write. We did the project proposal and we sent it out to him, and he said he couldn't. Michael Olivier said that he wasn't receiving any money from government, so keep the debts going, so he could not. And I didn't get no answer from the NOC. So I also dropped that project. But no, nowadays you hear a lot of sports tourism thing being banged about and banged about. But I mean, this was an area where we could have raised up to 200,000 EC dollars per trip to the US, and that was just turned down again. So, so much things we try. I mean, but just we hoping that things could turn around in this period of time. Really, I mean, because you somehow you don't treat your people, Grenadian people, right, in that kind of manner, because we have a number of players who gone out there right now. When I check the remittances, I think last year personal remittances from Grenadians coming from the US, I think in 2018 it was about 4.1 million US, and I think 2019 was 3.9 or something like that. So you have a situation where we have unemployment situation here, and we had to get players out. If some of the players come back, fine. But if we could get players out there and get them employed, and they could contribute to family and friends, because some of the players got some of the other players to get up there. I mean, we're doing a wonderful job, because it's anything to help out, the Grenadian children. So when you're in a position to help and you marginalize one set over the other, then you find you have problems sooner or later. Because I mean, I surprised to hear Joel was talking about he didn't get any assistance when he was out there in college. You had if you look at the PKF accounting statement from the NOC, you could see 2013, 2014, you had $247 and $205,000 going out there for athlete assistance. So I thought he was in a privileged few. So I was surprised to hear that he didn't get anything. That was kind of, really, really strange to hear him saying that he didn't get, and he was in track and field. So just imagine basketball players. I mean, we had nothing to get with all those guys and them going over the years. And we had more than 20 players, I mean, both boys and girls, out there struggling and make it. Eventually, most of them make it, which was really good. But we really need to turn the thing around and help you people out, because nobody ain't going to do it for us.
Okay, quite a bit to digest, but the meat of the matter, and I don't want to be punished by the people of the parish of St. John's. In fact, my wife is from St. John's, okay? So
your wife is from St. John's. Congratulations.
Yes,
I mean,
right?
you're smarter than most people from St. John's.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome.
Naka, but the energy, the energy of Gouyave, history of sports in the parish of St. John. What inspired you to write this book, Naka, and how long did it take you to complete this project?
Well, it took about maybe about 4 years. It was I think the assistance from the people in the parish was really great. I mean, we had a serious outpouring of information. People try their best to give me as much as they can, and still I couldn't cover, because there are a number of people left out. Even as recent as last night, a lady that purchased the book in London was asking me about a player I couldn't even remember. So I'd also call up some of the players, and then he tell me, yeah, that player used to play for St. John Sports, but he wasn't maybe one of the top players. Somehow I missed him because I didn't have him on a team or whatever, so somehow he wasn't there. So much information to get within a 4-year period. So some people were lost in the first edition. We're hoping to do an next edition and see if we could capture some of the other people that were left out. But one of the inspiration, like you say, besides Kirani James, of course, you must talk about the culmination of all the energies there, going out on the world stage and winning almost every championship that he took in. Really masterful, class of an athlete. The man that really moved me a bit was this footballer that we call Peter Ponga, because Donald Pierre is in that same vein as well, and some of the other people that would have participated in sport. But something about this man, because he was a fisherman and a baker, and he was just, I mean, extra. I mean, well, first of all, I didn't know that he was at that level until he died in '88, and people came up for the funeral, and I noticed people like Sandy Taylor and George Maguire and all these people, and them came. So I was asking, well, who it is, whose funeral it is, and then they say Perry. That's the nickname we used to call him. I say Peter Ponga. I say, Peter Ponga. I said, nah. Well, I said, well, how is he associated? And they say, well, through football, he was this class of a player. So when I heard that, I started asking, a couple of people around, and then I ended up calling my dad in New York and I asked him, because I say, if anything, he need to know about, about Ponga. And he told me, yeah, this man was exceptional. As a matter of fact, they used to close the post office since 3:30 to go and watch this man play. And this man was just a genius of a man, because people never saw him train or practice or anything like that. But once a man put on that boots in the foot, I mean, this man can make magic. This the Brazilians came out, I think maybe it was in the 90s or so, with the banana kick, where Roberto Carlos and them was bending ball around wall and things like that. And this man was doing that quite in the 40s and 50s. As a matter of fact, Carlos Pecos Luis, who became one of the best corner kickers and kickers in general in Grenada football, he was taught in the 70s how to kick the corner and score from the corner. This man showed him the technique, and up to this day, he could still do it. He could just tell you which part of your foot he did with, and so this thing really fascinated me, and I thought that I really need to document, because somehow this thing is gonna get lost, and maybe nobody might bother with it. And so I started interviewing people. I must have interviewed maybe over 100 and something persons, and then after I got enough info and that, I started putting the other pieces together. But we have, we produce some tremendous sportsmen in the parish over the years. You can't leave out fellas like Donald Pay and Dunsan Campbell and Natalia Vincent. And
so Kirani was just the icing on the cake in terms of that. There were so many others, as you said.
Yeah, we had the Wilsons and them, for instance, in the 30s and 40s, starting with a man we call Pekao. What was his name, boy? Anyway, Mr. Wilson. That whole family was just a running family. You had Dorothy Wilson, who dominated primary school and stuff like that. I think she even performed at the Southern Games and did well for Grenada as well. And the son, that was Baba Wilson, he used to long jump, high jump. Was just a whole set of runners coming to Reginald Wilson. I think he came second to one of the English sprinters, top sprinter at the time, because he migrated over there. What's the guy name? I can't even remember it now, but he ran against him. So you had a whole set of track and field people coming up, in the 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s. You read was Williams and Crow, what you name, Davis Crow, and those guys, and them who dominated primary school. He's just really, too much guys. I still think I missed out on so many people, and when you start calling names, you always run into that problem.
Yeah, and
I didn't even touch martial arts yet.
Right, because going through the book, I realized that it wasn't just track and field and basketball that the parish is synonymous about, but even boxing, dominoes, table tennis. In fact, I wanted to give some clarity on something I saw in the book regarding boxing in the 40s, and it mentioned that they had some exhibition bouts that were organized at the old RC school, and with Eric Simpson and Carlisle Glean Sr. emerging winners. Are you referring to the former Governor General?
That's correct.
As a boxer?
Yeah, of course he was a boxer. Yeah. Because they had Corinthians, I think it was Corinthians gym that is set up on St. Dominic Street. Yeah, okay. He was a boxer. He tell me first outing he got one among the punches that he might have also give him some bully mass to drink, maybe to move some of the inflammation in the body after he got punched up. But he was one of the early boxers there. Claude Francis was the man who really started the thing. Claude Francis also did stuff in chess as well. He was instrumental in that. He did some work in the sporting area as well. He was one of the stalwarts, not only in sport, but the social issues for the community as well.
But and the more I go through the book, I mean, I will encourage anyone, and not only the people of St. John's, to get a copy, because it's something that you will see a lot of information in this book that probably will wow you, because in terms of the sporting disciplines, how were you able to track down some of these? Because, I mean, you will consider some of it the non-traditional sports for the parish. When you talk about swimming, and netball in this extent that even Gouyave had a team, and Gouyave participated at times in national netball.
Yeah, but netball is interesting. Even before I go to karate, netball is quite interesting because we had this lady from St. Patrick's, and she used to live in Gouyave, and she played on the under 23, and she played with Carlos Pecos Lewis. He had this team called Fun City, and she played with Fun City for a while, and she played on the under 23 team. And Coach Simpson worked with her, and she developed over the years. And somehow a scholarship opportunity came up for her. Well, not a scholarship, a contract, sorry, a professional contract came up for her in London. So we had also prepare her to go to play, you know. It was, she was going to play for Wales. And that's Letitia Keto.
Yeah, Letitia Keto, right.
Right. And we worked, we practiced, and then, well, she was the second person that I worked with to go out there. That the first one was Ansel Langain that I worked with to become the West Indies team. But Letitia Keto was really something else because she worked really hard to get out there, and then when she get out there, she was able to turn around Wales netball because it was always at the bottom of the table in the English Super League. And in 3 years' time, she got them into the finals. And you know, that was really remarkable work. And she was coming up against some of the best in the world, like Pamela Kukri and those guys, and them were the top shooters in the world because England then was ranked number 3 in the world behind Australia and New Zealand. So that was the first pro netball player we had coming out of Grenada, and she did really, really well. I mean, her averages was way above, you know, some of the top shooters in England. I mean, she was right up there. She was, as a matter of fact, she was a celebrity in Cardiff. You know, really, 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 yeah. I mean, she turned around netball. People wasn't aware of that, but
I remember covering Lati indeed. Kalai Glean Jr. is saying, yes, indeed. So Kalai was asked to choose between his wife and the sport of boxing. That proposition ended his boxing career, you know. So at least he's confirming that Kalai was actually a boxer in his days. I mean,
he was. I mean, I checked it out, and it was, you know, it was correct. He was a boxer.
Well, what it outlines and what it confirms, Naka, is the depth of achievements and accomplishments of sportsmen and women in the parish of St. John.
Yeah, and part of the area too, because the discipline, for instance, that my background really, I'm trained. I was trained over the years in martial arts, and that is where most of my discipline come from. Michael Sutherland was the original sensei at the time because he had most of us there, and myself, Gregory Dabrio, Celestine Oliver, I think David Lewis come after, but you have that Baga Trax and Stephen Campbell and Daka Pedrick and Michael Churcher. There's a whole host of us started, you know. I was a lead comer really, and we started doing martial arts. People realize that the martial arts started in Gouyave, as a matter of fact, and extended outwards towards Georges and those places. And that is where my background is really, and that is where the discipline come from. So one of the things when it comes to mental preparation, most of the stuff that we would use, especially for the team in basketball, some of it come from the martial arts background. And every now and again, I would pick Master Dabio brain, you know, to come up with something. If I need something, I'll pick your brain or I'll call Sensei in the US, and we talk a bit on, you know, martial arts stuff and how we go about preparing, because we thought that the Eastern people did a pretty good job in terms of understanding how to work on the mind, in terms of, you know, getting players to play at the optimum. So that is some of the techniques that I still continue to use. That is why our basketball team, like I tell you, for the last 33 years, we have made every semi-final in Grenada for the last 30 years. When I look at some of the other sporting clubs and things, they think that you based on talent you go up and down, but I'm saying based on what the players was able to achieve is that you could have a level of consistency if the attitude and thing is right, and that is what something that you have to work on. I don't know how to get to that and get the players and them to play at this level consistently. It doesn't matter, you know, sometimes the talent that you have. But if guys could work together and really work as a unit, you'll be surprised to see what could be achieved.
You know, and I recall back in my days in the media, in fact, specifically in the 90s at GBN, and reflecting on some of the achievements of sports around, the island. And when it came to St. John's, there was something unique about St. John's of yesteryear. Table tennis, for example,
Yeah.
secondary school sports. It was one of the fiercest rivalry among secondary schools when it comes to football, and when it comes to track and field, especially the relays. The great Leon Dikoto, for example, created some problems. Steve Duncan, and then you had Waggy T and Wayne Redhead. You had Duncan, quite a few of those guys in table tennis.
Don't forget Sharon Charles, and then they might take us away
Definitely,
because we stress it on the men. Don't forget the ladies.
well, yes, the ladies had their own
Yeah.
because they dominated. Some of them dominated the long distance.
Well, Sharon Charles, for instance, not long distance, she dominated everything. 1, 2,
Right.
4, 8, 15, everything.
So
And
what
Natalia Vincent javelin 4 times, Carifta goal. I mean, yeah, so
what
much
has,
things there that
what
go
has
ahead.
gone wrong? What has gone wrong from then to now?
Again, all right. Let us look at what happened in let us look at 2012, for instance, because we had a string of 400 runners from Donald Pay to Kenneth Smalley Noel. You had well, Kirani came on after. You had people like Richard Britton, who represented the Grenada in the 1986, I think, Olympics. So we and Joel Redhead, and so we had a string of 400 runners. Now, if the administration, when they saw Kirani did the double world championship and also the Olympic gold, if we had invested some funding like what is happening now in St. David's, which is a really good thing with Track Blazers, where they have a sort of throwing center, right? So Coach Paul could get talent from all around Grenada that he think is good enough, and even from the OECS to come into the center and prepare them. We have things going. We had 2 clubs functioning in Gouyave at the time. You had Speed Zone, where Kirani came from, and you also had Western Jets with Richard Britton, sort of. And if we had pumped money into those things and ensure that these clubs and them stand up, because again, the question of volunteerism is always a problem where people have to migrate and things because living has become so difficult. So your survival, is what you have to, before you leave school. Now you have to think about where you're getting work. Now that didn't used to happen before, but so if that was pumped into St. John's, for instance, you had Natalia Vincent, for instance, she win the javelin 4 consecutive occasions, I think it was, against the Jamaicans, and then they couldn't beat a 4 consecutive goal. So if those things, if they saw the need to keep those things in hand because the talent was coming from there, you'd have see a number of athletes continuing to produce from the parish. But as usual, we just you have something here and then you work with it for a while, and soon as the talents are drop a bit, you move and you're gone somewhere else. So that is one of the reasons sports just fade away in St. John's. I mean, you still have Gavin Taylor and Carlos Lewis. I just call them the seniors when it comes to volunteerism in the sports council. And Carlos Lewis in football since 1980. We have other guys that would have come through and done some tremendous work as well. But these people and them continue to fight up even at the present time, and we're still trying to get something going, But what we lost a serious moment there because we should have gotten Kirani James and those guys and them to come back and do 400 camps around the country. I don't think Kirani ever came back into an organized camp and did anything around the country. So how would the younger, the younger generation of track and field people know anything about them? As a matter of fact, they must forget about them. You see, they must forget. I mean, if you look, for instance, I noticed something the other day. I don't know if you have the privilege to look at GBN Sports, the opening of GBN Sports, the sort of intro, right? And I don't know if you ever looked at that. You ever look at the intro to the sports program on GBN?
Not of recent, sorry.
Not of recent.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you look at it, you'll see the world champion there. That's Anderson Peters at the start of it and at the end of it with the winning through at the world championships. But the Olympic champion is not there. You know, the Olympic champion is not there. And I call the radio station and, you know, I tell them, I say, it can't be because that's the Olympic champion. The first Olympic champion. We don't have another Olympic champion yet. So you have to be there. Any sporting program that you have to be there. Where would the children get any inspiration from if the Olympic champion was there and now he's not there? You know? And up to now, they have not rectified. The same thing is on. So you see a number of things that's happening in the parish. And again, like I tell you, if the administration had the eye on the ball, this thing wouldn't allow, you know, it wouldn't happen. Right now, that is my fourth attempt, not my fourth attempt, sorry, because I did two as technical director. So the GNBA had two attempts at trying to get an indoor facility. We tried to get one in 2000. The league wrote up a proposal, and the minister, the MP for the area, went in Taiwan and got some funding. And we tried to set up an indoor for the basketball, and it resulted in the field not complete, no pavilion, and the basketball court was damaged for 10 years. And that was the mecca, as you say, of basketball. We only came back in 2010, you know, and the basketball league is who write the project proposal to get the funding, and the priority on the funding was for indoor facility. Yes, still it could get damaged and we get no indoor facility. So I'm coming back again at this time here where we're working on something and hope that we can get it covered, because the rain is creating a lot of havoc in terms of the preparation of the players and so forth, because I think that if the scholarships and them are free outside, especially for basketball players, which I could assist in, that we should make every opportunity and capitalize on it.
Yeah, well, and you know, it's interesting that you talking about all these things, which, to some extent, if you read the book, you didn't say it directly like that, but you would have noted the achievements, and then questions would have been asked as to why such and such.
Sure.
Interesting enough, though, Naka,
Yes.
I was reading tennis in the parish started in the 1800s.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, a tennis court was actually built in St. John's since during, well, probably slavery, because we're talking about the planters.
That's correct.
You know, so what has happened then? I mean, tell me. I mean, through your research, what have you found?
Well, the although the tennis court was there, like you said, it was the planters and who really used to push that game. So you find that the ordinary folks, are what you call the people that was up to that level, really didn't take a liking much to tennis. So they focus on the other sports like football, cricket, netball, you know, track and field. And even though there was some movement to start playing, because they played at the St. Rose court for a while, Roland Baldio and his brother and Jeffrey Britton and a number of them played there with a Pisco Walker and one of the sisters who played there. They tried to get it going, and Mr. Redman used to come around every time and try to teach the game. And after he passed, then Richie Hughes took up the mantle, and we had even Albert Joseph coached tennis for a while. I think he and the Elias guy, what's his name? Anthony Elias? I sort of forget his name now, but they did some work on the tennis, but tennis never really catch on in any serious way in the parish, because the so much people was interested in the track and the other thing that it just, you know, because again, maybe the cost of playing tennis, you know, the shoe and the racket and all that stuff, it was just, you know, maybe too expensive, and it's not something to the liking. Maybe we wanted something more energetic so that we could move around and what have you. So
yeah, well, if and I'm only asking if,
yeah,
there is a need to put something in the parish to recognize the achievements of persons in the in the parish. I know it will be a difficult task to do. Obviously, Kirani will be at the pinnacle, but I mean, you have so many of these people, and you started off the program by speaking about Peter Ponga, for example. But even when it comes to administration, we cannot forget the late Carlos Thomas, for example.
Yeah,
And
Carlos
right,
came late. You had to talk about
yeah,
teachers and yeah, so much people
right.
that contribute before that.
So,
You know, I
how,
mean numbers.
as someone who has been involved in sports in the parish for all these years,
Yeah.
how do you think it these people, apart from this book, how do you think that these people can be recognized and appreciated in the parish?
Um.
I know it's a tough
Well,
one to think about.
nah. You know that. I mean, like I tell you, if you have money, like money answer it all things. You know, if we have money, we could. I sure we could organize a place, and we could get a place, and uh, the Ambassador Clarice Charles was talking to me about making some. You know, they have some sort of plaques that are making Cuba where they make a number of. They'll put up your face on it now. It's like a tile. I think she says they does that in Cuba, and we could have the faces of those people that went before and did well in sports. You know, we could set up that. I don't think that's difficult to do. One of the good places for that, right there, they have church in that hall there. That's one of the great houses next to the Guelph police station. That was one of the ideal places I was thinking about for setting up such a thing in that facility. But once you get the place, I don't think it's difficult to identify in most of because you still have a number of people around who could talk about some of the people that went before and their achievements and the level they played at. So I still think we have time to do such.
Well,
Yeah, I think it could still be done.
and someone is saying, Spotty George is saying that St. John's probably recommended a St. John's Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, yeah, St. John's, and maybe you need to go to Grenada Hall of Fame too. I mean, yeah, so much people. I mean, we only touching St. John's here, but of course, I think it might be necessary to set it up. But like I tell you, everything again just depend on funding because just to get this thing sorted out in terms of whether it's pictures you want to use or whether you want to get the pictures done in a tile form or whatever to frame it up and make sure it looks, so when people come in, at least they could see and maybe you could have some old videos, which is sort of difficult to find, that you could set up in there so that people could look at those videos and then when they come in along with the picture and maybe you could have a short history of the person written as well. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing. It's a great idea, but like I say, it's getting it going.
Um, what can you say about the St. John Sports Council? I know it was one of the most active and of most recent, even prior to a sports policy. The St. John Sports Council was very active. Is it still active in the
Yeah, we
park?
still we still functioning. As a matter of fact, because the history of the St. John Sports Council was way. I mean, the St. John Sports Council that we have now. I mean, that came about because we had a sports council prior to that, and that sports council was responsible for doing the wall around Cuthbert Peters Park. And so when it came to the formation at the new council, which Patrick Simmons was really interested in getting done as sports minister, and we went out and get this thing going, and we tried to make it work. But again, there were forces trying to make sure that the sports council failed because the sports council to them was taking away power from central government, if you want to put it that way, not central government, but central administration, because funding would now have to come to the council, and the council would then use that funding to deal with the sports and thing in the parish, which we had a pretty good idea in terms of who was needing what and whatever. I could remember with first installment we get, and I think we must get it about twice, maybe or three times during that process, about $10,000. And the amount of activities we had with that $10,000 is in 1 year was unbelievable. It's so much things we did. We had clinics and camps and workshops and assistant to netball and basketball and stuff in Montgomery. I mean, so much things. I mean, and a number of the communities are falling apart as well because, again, we do have the assistants. So you're looking as if most of the thing is just centered around the tongue, But before you had cricketers and so coming out of Grenada and Concord and footballers and Montgomery and a whole set of track and field and football people, and then you go up Guave State. I mean, you had so much activities all over. but slowly but surely these things just faded away. But yes, the council is still there. I mean, we're not functioning at full strength, but we're still functioning. We sort of limping along, hoping that we could get some fresh air moving forward. But again, that is left to be seen.
So would you allude that the Sports Council was partly responsible for the success of organized sports in the parish of St. John's?
Yeah, well, in large measure because we was able to give the necessary assistance. I mean that is one of the good things because, well, like I tell you, once you have funding coming in, you could do a number of things. For instance, with the basketball competition locally, assisting when we did not get funding to do like holiday recreation programs, the council would chip in if we need assistance. For instance, some of the tours we went on because the basketball club we went on a number of tours outside of the country, and we also invited a number of teams from overseas to come and play against us in Grenada, but we shared up among the other teams in the country. One of the things that the council also did was really noteworthy was the whole question of the last group of guys that went out on basketball scholarship because we were able to bring in Sparklers, the club, and the sports council. We come together and brought in Coach Ronaldo, and we had him stayed in Gouyave at Willie's apartments, and we did 2 open camps, 2 days up at Library, and we invited all the top players to come, or all the players and them that was scholarship worthy to come and participate. And as a result of that, we get about 5 or 6 guys going out on scholarship, and out of that we have two guys out of that group. Well, three. Well, no, two guys, one, two, no, 3 guys out of that group is playing professional basketball. Hakim in Croatia, Daniel Regis in Portugal, and Hakim Simon just signed a contract to go France. And then you have Kevin Cox who went through the rigors on his own, more so, and got some assistance with Hakim and them to get transfers and thing. And he's also playing pro as well. So the council, yes, they would come in and assist in programs like those, and in a number of ways. Whether we used to have I think Western Sprints or whatever, they would also come in and contribute if there are shortfalls or whatever in funding. They would come in and contribute if we have athletes that want to go away, athletes having problems with anything. Like, for instance, we were really supportive of table tennis in the parish. We have Rose Dinner, who has about sometimes 70, 80 children playing tennis at one time. Sometimes she would have, problems with funding, and the council would come out every year and support. So you have a number of ways that the council still would come out and support sports in the parish and keep things going.
Okay, we have I have so many things to ask you, and I don't know if we will get it within the time. We may have to just go over time because it's very important for what we're discussing. But important enough, Carlisle Green Jr. is asking me to ask you about your personal development. You regard you as a very humble man. He says, and referring to you, he has a very inspiring personal journey that can be used to motivate our youth. His life continues to be one of my inspirations. What can you tell us in terms of what Carlisle Green Jr. is referring to?
Well, I'm not sure what he's looking at. I'm not sure what he's looking at, but in the sense that I did a lot of, like I said, because of martial arts too, because in the early stages of life, going to primary school, one of the things I used to do is I used to fight a lot. Always used to be in some fighting thing, some fight somewhere or the other. Until I joined martial arts, then I really stopped fighting. Never got into any altercation of that kind again. So martial arts, in a sense, so it's sort of the art of fighting without fighting, really. And when you really get deep into the art, then you understand really and truly. You just need to be humble. I mean, if you really sit back and you could sort of remove all the things that you added to yourself or how you know yourself, you could remove all that and you really check on how your body functions. You realize that the body is very peaceful and very humble, and all this stuff that we add in there and all this stuff that people say about you and all that stuff, and and you know, it could mess with your ego, and all of a sudden you think that you're on cloud nine, and really and truly you're not. You're just really fooling yourself with that. So once I get to understand that, I'm not really moved by these things at all. I just focus on the work at hand, and try to do what I could do, you know. And it works for me. I'm not really asking anybody to try and copy me or pattern me in any way, because I mean, different strokes for different folks. You know, I could have used one way to arrive at that point, and other people could use some other way and arrive at the same point. But that to me has played a major part in me being humble, because you know, I come to the understanding really and truly there is nothing to really brag and boast about. There's nothing there. When I watch the life of Peter Ponga and Donald P and those guys and them, and the extraordinary performance, just simple men. I mean, they were not student athletes. I mean, which we're trying to promote these days, you know. And yet still the performance was way above everybody else. I mean, how could I not be humble? You know, how could I not be? You know?
uh, I know. They want me to dig you about talking about yourself, you know, but they said that
Talking
you
about
don't like
what?
about yourself. You don't like talking about yourself, but they want me to ask you to talk about yourself. But you in some time ago, I listened to you speaking about, and you had a personal injury. You had an injury that you had to overcome many years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, I had a lot of stuff that I went through. Like every human being, when you go through you go through life, I mean, you have injuries. I did martial arts, I can tell you, with the injury, and I make it worse. I didn't realize that I had a major thing. I had to do surgery in Trinidad. So yeah, and I'm there. I'm still rallying, you know, limping along, but I'm there. I mean, all of us would have a little hip, you know, like I mean, you know how the body operates. I mean, from time to time, you would run into things, you know, and they stay on you for a while, those injuries, you know, but you have to move along.
Mhm. But Naka, at the start, you spoke about being retired from your day-to-day job.
Yeah.
But someone like you haven't retired from sports. um, Being involved in sports, I should say. Tell me
No.
honestly, what you would
I,
like to see, what you would like to know that you can sit back and look at the achievements and the accomplishments over the years. What you would like to see in terms of the development of sports, first in the parish of St. John and then on the national level.
no. I mean, how much words do you want me to answer? To use to
Uh,
answer the question?
well,
I mean, that's a heavy one, eh?
yes, it is my happy, and I must tell
Yeah.
our fellow viewers as well that we have
Yeah.
agreed to go beyond the time, you know, because we want to get as much
Because
as
you
possible.
see, you see our drive really, because again it depends, because you have different, I mean, degrees of sport. You have sports for all, where you like to see more people participate for the health. You like to see people play sport, I mean, and not get bogged down in books all day. I mean, just academics. You know, these days we have a big push with parents loading up the children with 13 and 14 subjects and things like that, you know. So you want them to use sport to free them up and maybe come back to the book. So for those areas, yes. But if you get into sport on the competitive side, where you want to go out there and perform at the regional, sub-regional level, and eventually perform internationally, you have to change up exactly how you approach the whole sporting thing. You have to really invest and train your people to handle, especially at the primary school level, at these early stages. Make sure that they have the proper fundamentals moving forward, and then you get to the secondary school level, ensure that you have coaching there, and then you move them out. You see, Kirani and them has brought a lot of joy and stuff for us as a country, but they also is creating a problem for us now, because now that the world knows that we have the potential to do stuff, a lot of people are expecting a lot of things from us, and the question is whether or not we put in those structures in place to get sports moving in that direction. I mean, we put on some major facilities. I don't think government has ever spent so much money on any facility, whether it's for government offices as the two stadiums that we have. I mean, that's a lot of millions of dollars. And we have to try and utilize those facilities in the best way we can. But you cannot only deal with facilities. You have to deal with the human beings to carry out, the work as well. So we really have to set it up. We have to get the house sports and thing back on track where you have more people taking part in house sports, not only in track, but also in the other areas. Before you come out with your school team, at least you would have house competition among the children and them, and then after you come up with your team and then you move forward. So that should be encouraged again. So we have some stuff to do. We can't just sit back and just try to sift around and take the one or two cream of the crop that is floating by and then try to go internationally with it. We have some groundwork to do, and part of it is really training your people at all levels. I mean, I've done a lot of work in the Caribbean. I don't know if you're aware of it, but I've been coaching in Trinidad and Tobago. I've coached in Guyana. I've coached St. Vincent. I've coached all over the place. But if you check my resume, you realize I haven't coached much in Grenada.
Any reason why that is so?
Well, I think in the case of basketball, because the coaches competing against me sometimes, when you play sometimes and you go back to your village, you forget you have an next set of people to deal with, and if it looks as if that you're not sure about what you're doing about, people will give you flack. So sometimes you don't want to be seen, to be taking stuff from me to help with your development. So some players, not players, but some coaches would avoid doing that. But I sort of find a way around that a bit, and sort of invited when I was technical director, I sort of bring in coaches and try to work on that aspect of it and try to give them as much videos and things so that they could study and compete. Even some of the players used to come and train with us to play against us. So it doesn't matter because our practices are always open, and coaches feel to come and look. They could come and, if they want to ask me a question, they could ask me a question. It doesn't matter. It's all about Grenada basketball, Grenada sports, because I've also assisted netball. I've worked with football teams. It's, anybody interested really.
I have some other questions regarding the book, but Joel Phillip is saying that you have been around long to see the different stages sports has been through in Grenada. What role do you think the Grenadian public needs to play in sports in Grenada?
I think the public need to pay more attention. That what Joel is saying. In sports, they need to look at some of the funding agencies where the funding is coming from, and make sure that there is not this sort of disparity among sporting organizations, and people really go out and help and do it for the good of Grenada. Make sure that all the programs and them that are coming in, all the associations are aware of the program, and sort of help the association to utilize the funding from those programs. I mean, sometimes when you look at some of the federations, you listen to some of the members of the federations, sometimes they're not even aware of the new programs that comes in that help, whether with training of elite athletes or coaches, program for coaching development and things through some of the organizations. We had to try and capitalize on all the funding that we could get overseas and make sure that we utilize. But the thing is that if the public is just treating sport as sport, if you can do academic, play sport, if you can do academics, play sport, and they're not looking at what is going on and putting pressure, on the funding agencies, and also on the federations to make sure that we step up to the plate and have some sort of standard when it comes to sport, so that we could really get the amount of scholarship necessary and create some employment out there for our people who cannot get employment here. I think we're missing the mark. So Joel is right. The public really need to start zeroing in, because I mean, is your children that playing the sports, and if there are opportunities there for your children, you should be interested in it. Because every year TAMCC dumping out about 500-600 children outside of us. And that's only TAMCC. We're even talking about the other secondary schools. So if we have children there that is good in sports and all sports, track, football, for instance, I don't think that we capitalize well on the sports in Europe, for instance, where you don't really need student athletes, but what you need is good club players. I thought that we'd have capitalized on that over the years, and I don't think we did. I think Devon Smith went to one of the counties. He got some scholarship up there when he was a really up and coming, real open cricketer. I think he went to the same place that Brian Lara went to. But other than that, we have not capitalized on Europe, especially when it comes to the football. So these are areas, yes, the public need to zero in and really start,
Yeah,
making some noise when it comes to sports.
Rissy Sam is saying that supporting the grassroots, they don't just wait until someone explodes on the scene, but you know, supporting in terms of fundraisers, paying at the gate. In terms, that's also giving some support. And she outlined that Kirani's parents used to pay to enter Speed Zone events, even if we tell them no.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of supporting the
Yeah.
grassroots programs.
Yeah, well, people would do that, if you have it organized, people would support the grassroots. I mean, if you again, you see, you can't force people to volunteer. Like I tell you, I'm a volunteer, and I've been volunteering, right, but you can't really force people to volunteer. And for whatever reason, the pool of volunteers that we have, has been dwindling over the years because people are to search for, other things to do as far as your livelihood are concerned. But if you set up something right, and for activities you ask people to contribute. I mean, sometimes I remember when we have football matches and St. John Sports playing, sometimes we have 500 people in the park, 300 people. If you stand up there and you take $1 from everybody per game, you're talking about $300 per game. So yes, I mean, we need to organize, but like I say, it's difficult sometimes for you to be working full time, and then you still have to come and organize the tournaments, organize people to referee, organize things, coaching teams, national teams. You're doing. I mean, everybody wouldn't do that. Like you put your life on hold, and sometimes you're using, I mean, vast portions of your funding to get things going. But I mean, is it worth it? Yeah, of course. I mean, if what you're doing is to help another fellow man or some, of course, why not? I mean, sometimes I just don't see it as just everything for you, and you just work for you. You make what you could make for you, and move forward. But what that has brought us to is that if you realize is that a lot of the people who volunteer, and especially in some of the areas where we are large among the funding, you notice a lot of fighting taking place, and all of a sudden the administrators become more important than the athletes. But if you set it up in order priority, if the athletes first, the coaches second, the officials third, and the administrators fourth. But some other things they will spin around on the head, and the administrators become the most important people in sports in the country, not the athletes.
Well, and talking about you know, volunteerism and those who have given of their time, just like you. In the book, I've noticed a list, a cadre of sporting officials from the parish in various sporting disciplines. Football, for example, there were more football referees in Grenada from the parish of St. John than any place else. Okay,
Right.
um, even netball umpires to an extent, and there were a couple cricket umpires as well as
Right.
basketball referees. So,
Yeah.
not just, as you said, not just in terms of the sportsmen and women, but administrators as well as officials also play their part in terms of representing the parish.
Yeah, they did. I mean, you have some people there that, like, for instance, um, I mentioned in the book about a guy with Newman Oliver. We used to call him Father, and he played a role in track and field. I mean, he still amazes me really. But he used to go around at the start of the track and field season for the schools. He would go around and wake up children in the bed around 4 o'clock. Once you know you're running, and wake up all his children and every morning, Monday to Friday, and he would have about 25, 30 children, and that used to sort of just give you that kind of momentum going forward. And Father do that for years until he come to the point that he can't do it anymore. He just shows you, and nobody asked him, nobody give him any money to do that. But for years, this man just going around. Once the track and field season start, he's just going around and waking up everybody. You have to get up. Once your parents waking you up, and you have to go on the road. I show Kieran, he was part of that mix as well, along with Janelle Likoto and Joel and Richard. I show all them guys, and then he wake them up. And he did that for years. Just going to show, I mean, the whole question of volunteerism and how some people, I mean, worked in the parish, you had guys umpire for years, just doing the same thing. But I think now that has become real difficult.
Mhm. Um, Naka, we're going into the hard part of it now. Sports administration in Grenada. You have touched on it bits and pieces, and as Reese Sam and others will be saying, you're a straight talker. Are you satisfied that we are getting, what we really should be getting out of sports administration at the national level in Grenada?
No. We definitely we could get more. We could do much more. I think the people they are capable of doing more, but they just have to get the priority right. You have to be, national. What you're doing is for the good of the country. That have to be your number one priority. If anything else come there, you have a problem. That had to be number one. So whatever you do, you know, you always have to see the country first. No matter what it is you're doing, whether it's sport, whether this, whatever discipline, you have to see that first. That to be a number one priority. And once that becomes number one priority, you would go there and make sure at least everybody gets something or everybody get a fair share going forward. But if that is not the priority, and then the priority is something else, whether you just want to occupy a position, or you think it's a good thing for you to travel, or you think that maybe you could make enough money out there by going to different meetings or whatever, anything, or maybe you could use your office to move contracts in certain ways, or the other, in your favor, in your friend's favor. Once it becomes that, then we have a problem. The energy is not flowing in the right direction. And the thing is, though, is that I think it's not only me alone that knows what is going on. I mean, we have a number of people in the area of sports journalism, for instance, who knows about what was going on, but they refuse to report on it. But most of the time, I used to be getting leaks, and even though I'm not really quote unquote in the mix where all the funding coming from, but our association would take a whole set of leaks and where the funding is, and a lot of people know where the funding is, and they just wouldn't do any investigative journalism and report. So it's not a question of I being a straight shooter and I should say. I mean, a lot of people know what's going on, and they could also say. They don't have to be, fearful to say. They could say. So I think that we're hoping that the journalists and them would turn the cameras around and start really zeroing on sports and start asking some questions, some hard questions, and really start following up on what is going on in sports, because much more could be done.
I do agree, but in all defense to the sports media and what we have or lack of in Grenada, I think it's also imperative of the sports administrators of the various sporting bodies to be a bit more, a bit more responsive, a bit more accountable. And they are put there for a reason, and they shouldn't just, I understand the point you're making, but they shouldn't just rely on the deficiency of the sports media in Grenada. They also have their part to play.
No, I'm not saying about the deficiency. I'm not saying that you are responsible as media. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying is that media could do a better job, just as how federations could do a better job. I'm saying they could also do a better job if they have the country as priority, right? But I'm saying the role of the media is to report. So if you're reporting on sports and you're reporting as how you see it, then the public would be made aware of what is going on, and then the public, of course, would react to what is going on. They would show no interest. So it's not really coming on the media and say you're not covering. But the thing is that you also have to highlight if you see something wrong and you talk to a federation and they say they have no funding, for instance. So how come you don't have funding? How come you're not getting funding?
And I'm making
the media
point.
Go ahead.
Yes, and I understand what you're saying, but the point I'm making, I'm saying, and that's why I say their lack of, because I'm not saying, because I can say with all honesty, we do not have active sports reporting in Grenada now. So I'm saying that to say, as sports administrators, knowing that, they can't tell me they don't know that, they know that for a fact, that we do not have active sports reporting in Grenada. We probably have one or two persons who are doing things regarding sports reporting. Okay, but in terms of a sports reporter, when I was in Grenada, I was a sports reporter. That is what I was paid to do as a sports reporter. I
And
don't think there is any full-time sports reporter. Well, I could be wrong for now, but
okay,
the question was asked last week with Ray Roberts in terms of active sports journalism, in terms of a
right,
sports reporter whose job is to, on a day-to-day basis, cover in sports. Their thing is just to deal with sports. I don't think that is there. So I'm saying,
right.
as sports administrators, recognizing that shortfall, they also have a role to play and not just depending on the lack of sports reporting. There is, I mean, I'm being mad. I am accepting it that we
You,
do not have what it
so,
takes.
so let me ask you, you thought that during your period of sports reporting that you did what you had to do, or you
No,
think that you could have done more?
I think I could have done more. I'm saying
You think
yes, a lot could have, no, a lot could have been done. A lot could have been done, and that's the point I'm making. And at the time, it wasn't just Michael Bascom alone. There was Irvin Simon. There were a host
right?
of others, right? But I'm saying
Mm.
even now, and mind you, then compared to now, I think it's even easier now because look at what we are doing. you know,
Is
you're in
that
Grenada.
is
No,
not is not easier? Is the same Michael Bascom
no, no,
doing
no,
it? Who
no,
else is still
no,
doing it?
no. I'm
You
saying
say,
easier
huh?
in the context of making the connection and doing that. I'm saying it's
Yeah,
easier in the context.
that is
Um,
exactly what I'm talking about. But you
right.
don't see who is making the connection.
Yeah,
Is
but
the same Michael Bascom not making the connection?
I am not a sports journalist anymore. I'm not a
This is what
sports
I'm saying.
journalist.
So,
So I'm
so
saying
understand. So understand where I'm coming from.
I do
You see, it's
understand,
still Michael Bascom not
yeah,
making the connection
yeah, but
because there is no connection.
right,
This is
right.
what I'm saying,
I
right?
agree. But
And the thing is that thing has become so strategized. Is that what has happened is that a lot of people, for whatever reason, um, when they operate for the administration, the sporting administration that gives funding, whatever, they would want to let's say they want to get opportunities to cover thing or whatever. They have to toe the line. If you don't toe in the line, you can't move. You have to toe the line, right? If you don't toe in the line in terms of your reporting, I mean, you could be excelled. I mean, the amount of licks I know that basketball and other federations get in terms of putting a house in order and organizing thing and training our coaches and them kind of thing. You don't hear that kind of blows go into the NOC or some of the other federations.
and there lies the problem, Naka. As I'm
But that's
saying,
what I'm saying. And when I
you
say that's what
you
I'm saying. That's what
right.
I'm saying. So there lies the problem with who?
No, there lies the problem because you're speaking out. You are talking about it. But
No,
here's the problem.
but what I'm saying is that what I'm saying is known to everybody. I
Yeah,
am saying it, but you would
but
have known that as well.
why? Yes, but I'm saying
Uh,
the persons who are representing basketball and football and track and field and swimming at the national level, and
yeah,
you refer to the, let's say, the NOC, for example, they
yeah.
do have general. Why are they not speaking out? Why are they not sharing the concerns
You
that you are
you
sharing? I
you know why they're not speaking out.
No, and that's what I'm saying. There lies the problem with some of our
No, of
administrators.
course, but you know exactly why they're not speaking out. You know, I know
That's
you know. You don't want to say it, but you know.
no, but yeah, but
You no longer a sports journalist, and you living in New York. They had a flight to come and get you. So now is your opportunity, maybe, to talk now. You could talk now.
no,
Maybe
no.
I could host the program
It,
now and let me
it,
interview
it,
you now.
it's not a matter of talking but I mean, you have been saying what you're saying for quite a
Yeah.
while. Not now you're saying that, but I'm
Oh, so you
saying yeah.
exactly. Go on.
No, I'm saying yeah. I mean, I can say that because I've spoken to you, many times before, and that's
Right.
why I'm saying that you have always been a straight shooter. You ask the question, you answer it, okay? But I'm saying you are not in the position of some of them in terms of representing national associations. They are the ones going to the meetings. They are sitting at the council meetings, okay? They are the ones who are expected to reflect the views of their constituents. Why are they not doing it?
For some of the reasons that I gave up, I tell you, you know the reasons. You know exactly the reason why they're not doing it. I mean, we have some. I guess you have one or two people now that is talking, and they're hoping that changes on the way in some of those areas as far as funding is concerned. So we hoping that that something could turn around. I mean, you don't have to be, because you see, once you come out and you make those statements, then you're under attack for whatever reason. And then because the people who, like you say, in media and others, are following up on what is going on, then once they marginalize you, then they could continue to go ahead doing what they're doing. But one of the things that was good is that and you always have to I always have to give credit to some of the players that stayed around and walk along with me, and some of the officials and the referees and things. We still could have done things in the parish and help players to get out there. I mean, without that being done, I mean, I don't know what would have happened to some of the players. I mean, Cox and those guys and them, the Goodin sisters, the Chiddick girl. I mean, yeah, a number of players that made it out on their own. John Bridgman and a couple of those guys and them still struggle, and they still made it out on their own without any major assistance. But without we coming together and working together for the overall good, it's just really, and mind you, we're doing much better than a lot of the islands. The same fight that is going on here, right, is going on in the other islands as well. I mean, I into basketball in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm talking to guys in St. Vincent, and I'm talking to guys in Dominica, and we're all over the place. Barbados, it's the same sort of fight. The same fight is going on.
Do you think that there wasn't some effort put in place to assist the parish St. John's, and to some extent Speed Zone, when Kirani and Albert in particular, as coach, homegrown talent, and what they have accomplished, as how it was in the case of Anderson and Paul in St. David's?
Well, again, that's me looking from the outside. What I'm saying is, I don't know if any assistance was given or any move was made towards that. Maybe Reese Sam and them could speak to that. But I'm saying is that when you have a situation like those occurring, or when you have instances where you have that kind of talent coming through, you have to make sure that you stay on top of it. I mean, if you try and the whole thing in the end mash up as a result, at least people can say, well, you didn't try to keep something going, and then you're looking as if when it comes to somebody else that you're pushing, and when it comes to them that you did not make that push. So I'm looking at it from the outside. I thought that, more work should have been done in that area in terms of making sure that they keep that thing going, whether it's through camps or whatever. You had something there, you work on it. You just work on it. If Albert Joseph is staying in St. George's right now, if gas is the problem, or you at the time, find a way. He coach at the Ministry of Sports as well. If you have to utilize him to come back to go over and do it, then so be it. To make sure that you have something going. Or if you want him to work in St. George's with somebody speed zoning, and you have another coach that you think that is capable, then let it do that. But you don't just let this thing just drift on. I mean, and just fizzle out like that. Because who the young track and field athletes, who they're looking at? Who they're going to look at? I just don't know who they're going to look at.
Yeah, that's yeah. Let me get to it's something I want to talk about. Okay. People cannot speak without the proper platform to do so. We are speaking out now, just getting the platform to do so. I know parents have been speaking out, running up and down the ministry, and everything falls on deaf ears. While we have a few minutes, because we go on top of the hour, it's just probably the right time to let folks know that the book, The Energy of Gouyave, History of Sports in the Parish of St. John, is available at bookstores in Grenada, as well as on Amazon.
We have it on we have it at the Soul, and we also have some at the stadium Grenada Pain Relief Center. That's where one of my past players, he's the CEO there. That's Gavin Taylor Jr. So he's there. We have books there as well, and I have books as well. If people want to contact me, or they could, people out in the States and they can get it at Amazon. So
Yeah, and Amazon, as well as I said, you can also look up Naka Joseph on Facebook, send him a message, and you can get
Sure.
more information about it. Very
The,
interesting, a lot of photos. Naka,
thank you.
how have you been able to accumulate all these photos?
I tell you, people give it to me, and that is only some.
What,
Because some of them got damaged during Ivan, so we couldn't use. And if you look at somebody photos, you could still see some of them sort of damage. But we tried to, but the people just came. They just came and just once I told them I was doing that, they were just happy that somebody was going to document, they do something on the parish. Because, like I tell you, the parish had some real outstanding. I mean, we don't really get to zero in on Donald Pay and Dunstan Campbell, for instance. Donald Pay was one of the guys on grass, run 47 seconds in 1976. I mean, that's not joke running you're talking about, and was able to defeat either the Olympic or world champion at the time. That was Fred Newhouse, I think it was. Dunstan Campbell also around 76 beat Bruce Jenner, who went on to win the Decathlon, I think, in the Olympic Games in 76. He beat him in Trinidad in the Southern Games. So you had some real outstanding athletes coming through. But what I'm saying is that it's not only in St. John's alone you have. What I try to do is to show, because we have a number of people like Michael McIntyre, who is CEO of McIntyre Brothers. I mean,
Mhm.
they used to be riding bicycle on grass. And he was one of the top riders with Roger Bayer and those guys and them. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard of bicycle race on grass. I don't know if you ever heard about that. And those
E-
guys was riding, I mean, nuts and all. We're talking about riders now. It's joke. I mean, when you have devil take the hindmost.
yeah, I remember
And
that they used to have
you
it in
remember those days?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
different
that,
and
that,
they
that,
actually
that
the same
called for a lot of skill and not crashing into one another on grass. I mean, that's serious stuff. So you have a lot of people. You have draft players and chess players. Kalai Green Jr. is one of the top chess players that we had in the country. We had Omari Tika. He played also in I think what he's doing now. I'm not even sure what he's studying right now, but he's one of the young chess prospects that we had. He won in Barbados on a number of occasions when he was over there, and he also played in some tournaments in Miami and did well. So you have a number of people there, and swimming, like you say, was really one of the top things. I talked to Carlton Simon when he was around, because I noticed that in the early times, when I say early, like 30 years ago, we used to have all the swimmers, and with the introduction of swimming in the pool, I tell him that he still need to come up and do some work. And if it's just the rotation in the pool to push off against the thing, you need to teach. But they need to teach those guys that, because most of our swimmers they swim in the sea where you don't have to really kick anything and spin around. So he got to work on that as well. So yes, I mean
yeah.
we have some talented people, but like I say, and the thing is that we have money in sports now. We didn't have money. We didn't have money before, but I mean, when you look at the balance sheets of
Mm.
somebody saying, I mean, you see millions of dollars, not joke money you're talking about. It's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
We
Well,
have the best. We have one of the best Olympic house in the region. You know that?
I hope so.
Or you heard so you haven't seen it? You need to go up
No,
and you could Google it and you see the quality of it.
yeah, I haven't visited the island for
No, you
far.
could look at it. You could look at it. You're on Facebook and all them
Yeah,
things. You could look at it.
I want to see inside it. I want to tour it.
Oh, you want to see inside it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, all right.
yeah. But
So
Naka,
we do it well in some areas, but I mean,
yeah,
we really have to focus on human resource.
but
Seriously,
yeah, and let's look at St. John's, right?
yeah.
What would who would you say was the fiercest of rivals to the parish of St. John? Was it St. Mark? I mean, I know it's next
Well,
door when it comes to sports.
it determines on what
Sports.
football. No, not sports. No, because St. Max couldn't match the power of St. John in track and field. We had too much the runners down there. St. Max
but,
didn't
but
have that among the runners.
but
But
there
if
was
football,
right and
Hurricane came up in the 60s, maybe 60s, yeah, because that is where them Don George and Ashley George and Motel and those guys came on the scene. And that is where the rivalry really start, because you had Diane Marquez and Alfred Philibert Dolaf and a couple of the young Cizo and a couple of those guys. Well, Boxo and Perry and them was all here. So you had the rivalry there in football. Oh, cricket too, because you had Oswald Clovey and those guys. So we had some competition in cricket as well. But we had not much competition. We started the competition in basketball, and we were rivaling. And then after that, we had a coming together. And then St. John just move out. So really and truly, I think the big rivalry between St. John's and St. Mark's, which helped the sports to really move forward, I think would have been in football and cricket.
And between those two parishes, they would have
Yeah.
produced some outstanding footballers over the
Oh,
years.
don't talk about that. I mean,
I was
really,
going through
really.
the issue about Windward Islands football. That's when they had
Yeah.
the Pop and Cup and all these things. And a number of players came from, the parishes of St. John and St. Mark as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. It has something wrong here, circling. I don't sure what it is. Like, I still can't work out. I mean, I wish I could have tell people where the energy was and what the energy is, and just go and get some of and drink some of it, and But I'm still trying to work on that. I don't know. I hope I'll get a message in sleep or something. So, but somehow there's something around the area here,
Okay.
And up to this point, it's still bubbling. It has not ceased to bubble. It's just a question of working with the talent that we have and putting it together, and we still could produce some stuff, not only for, like I say, St. John, but most of the guys represented the parish. Because if you realize also that most of the guys who competed in the early time, all of them, the majority of those students that they went to GBSS and BBC. So you have Dunstan Campbell, you have George Glean, you have all the Glean brothers. You have most of the athletes, everybody else GBSS until Shaper came on the scene in 1965.
And would you say that when Shaper came on the scene, it would have changed the landscape in terms of ensuring that, we keep those guys here?
Well, it wasn't a question of keeping those guys here, but it was a lot of pressure for parents and things too. I mean, to make sure that because I remember Master Dabrio, for instance, Gregory Dabrio, martial arts expert. If he was one of the top football players, because I think the first three persons to receive scholarship to the US was Joseph Cummins, Kenneth Smalley's Noel, and Hazari Lorini. I think that was the first three scholarship recipients in the country, subject to correction, to go to the States. All right. And Gregory Dabrio, Master Dabrio now, he was one of the top football players at the time. But he had a problem training down there, because once Shuff bus leave or any of the boat buses leave that market at a certain time, then you had to walk from St. George's to go. So he had to stop playing football. He stopped playing football as a result of that. So yes, transportation may be a problem, and when Shaper coming on the scene, it was easier financially for parents to get their children to go there, and it was a good avenue for us to know of a secondary school and make it available to the people in the parish. So that changed around things a lot. Yeah. You still have people going. I mean, Kirani ended up in GBSS as well. I mean, my nephew who does the publishing of the books, he's also a GBSS boy, but you still have one or two people that would go to GBSS, but a lot of them went to Shaper and St. Rose, and it was really good for us still continue to help, I mean, in the whole thing that sport and sport growth in the parish.
As we get ready to wrap up, and as we see Michael Sutherland with his hashtag, the Energy of Gouyave, is there a second edition of part two?
That sense, well, the among that stuff that was not stuff, but the amount of information that was left out, I don't have a choice. Maybe if I do it, somebody else gonna have to do it. But I guess my nephew might do it, because he have the information as well. Because I'm now trying to update the basketball book, because that was since 2012. So I need to update the basketball book as well, because we have so much things happening in basketball. Even though people think that a lot has not happened, but we have a lot of stuff happening in terms of some of the parishes like St. Mark's and tournament in St. Patrick's, Lipazil Invitational. We had a number of tournaments in St. Mark's, Chad Noel and those guys, and we have Western Champ. Well, we always had championships by me. So we had some things happening on the West. We had a kind of slowdown in St. Andrews for a bit, and we had the association running couple in St. George's, and we also had one or two in Grenada. So we still over the years had a couple things going in that it worth recording in the book, so I have to do an update on that as well. And I almost complete I'm doing one on Peter Pongler, because I think it was necessary to do something on him for himself, because I think he was a mystic when I look at him and his performance in sports. after talking to about 100 and something persons. So I thought it was necessary that we do a small book on him. So at least the football and football community would treasure and keep to themselves. We have some good information there from 1949 and stuff come up. So you have some information there. We almost complete that, so that should be coming on track.
Well, a big takeaway from that book, for me, and for what you said. I mean,
Yes.
you didn't mention it in the book, but from
Yes.
what I take away from that is that the parish probably needs one. I think you alluded to that, something like a sports museum or
Yeah. Sure.
a hall of fame, and
Sure.
and hopefully that will be something that can be discussed further. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't go without you giving you the opportunity to say thank you to those who would have made this project successful. I mean, producing anytime an editor or an author is
Yeah.
producing a book, the resources in terms of the financial resources, always important. So
Yeah.
obviously, I
Sure.
would like to say thanks to some of those sponsors.
Yeah, we had I got some assistance from one Andy Salandi, Trinidadian businessman living out in North Carolina. He assisted me with some funding, the startup funding to make sure that we got the book out and running. I also got some assistance from the bank that's cooperative. So we did some get some funding there to assist with the book as well. But we also well, the people that did most of the editing work was teacher Pansy Small Houston. You also had Yolan Baker gave some assistance in the early part of the book, and you had so much of people contribute like Dory. Sylvester, Raphael Sylvester, you have a number of other people, like John, and a lot of other people. So much people contribute that, once you start calling names, you just run into problems. The martial arts section, Michael Sutherland, we call him Mai, he did his piece and I also do the background stuff with his sensei and how the things start. And so much thing, and master, so much people are also give information here and there that you really can, like Mama Yo Duncan, that he did some old photos for me of the El Center and Fedo Camp. And so much people are trying to cover as much. Say thank you to all those people and them. And those who can't remember, I just say all the people of St. John that contributed to see if I could cover everybody. But it's I think it's not my project, but it's a St. John project. And I think, hats off to the people in St. John's, and for those who went before and those coming, continue to work and contribute to the parish and by extension, Grenada as a whole, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, if I can just add some, I will borrow it from your book because I think it's important that I mention some of these. Nelson Lewis on football, George's Agents and Traders football, Huggin
Yeah.
netball, Sokalai Gleam basketball, Wayne Redhead basketball, Hubbard's cricket, Dr. Victor Wade netball, and Alistair Francis football, among many others, as you said.
That's just some of the main contributors, because like I said, the council help as well, and so much other people would chip in. But that is the problem when you're doing book. You can, you just can't cover everybody, but you have to try your best and see if you could cover,
Yeah.
all the people that would have contributed.
Well,
So
before you leave, I
yeah,
mentioned briefly, but Um, and I see Steve Duncan is on now, and Stevie is one who I always admire when goes back to the days of playing table tennis, football. I mean, all round sportsmen and women in the parish. Naka, and I think I asked you to an extent about that, but um, what you hoping and what you dreaming, and probably before you leave this earth, God forbid, that
yeah, you have to go now. God forbid, you can't get away. If you think you're gonna get away, you can't get away. As a matter of fact, I noticed that I should tell you that maybe at the start I realized that because I think you're moving along the spiritual path now, but I realized somehow it's like we give up the virus to the scientists to call the shot instead of the spiritual men, because I was coming to you for some insight. But go ahead.
Yeah, but what you think, and someone who has been following the sports in the parish for all these years, the greater part of 40 plus years in terms of administration, basketball in particular as a coach, but overall in terms of sports in the parish, what you hoping that you can see now in your latter years, now that you have retired, now that you can probably spend some more time as a spectator to an extent, you know,
Now,
what?
I'm not spectating, I'm still coaching.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
The players don't fire me yet. If they hear you saying that, they might get upset
yeah,
because
but I'm
they
saying
might think you're forcing me trying.
taken
Huh?
away from your professional life as a, day-to-day work. I'm talking about how
Oh,
you hoping that sports in the parish can be probably 5, 10 years from now. What your vision?
but that we do it 1 year from now. I mean, with the pandemic, I mean, we have not
Well,
practiced.
well, the
I mean,
pandemic,
in months. We
well, yeah,
hoping that we could get a break, but somehow I see footballers back out on the field of basketball. We ain't got a break yet.
but
But
pandemic wouldn't give you enough time to get things back in. So that's why I'm looking at a
yeah,
broader.
but if we continue to lag, if we continue to stay around, it will always be a problem for us. Um, Especially basketball, where you have to play close to each other and stuff like that, might always be a problem going forward. But the thing is that you're just looking for us in the parish to sort of have clubs up and running, the school programs going, more trained personnel on the ground, But all that, like I tell you, could happen with the necessary funding and administrative organization. I mean, you have the council there. I mean, Gavin Taylor still at the helm. You don't know how long he's gonna be around for. You don't know how long I'm gonna be around for. But we could have people train and feel those areas and get things going. Because that is what you want to do. I mean, you have things organized and moving forward. I mean, it's continuous training, and exposure and thing for the talent that you have around. Sports for health, sports for scholarships, sports for make sure that the facilities is in the best shape that you could have it, and just keep things going. You just keep moving on, you know, because I mean, so much thing changes. I mean, things just change in a second. I mean, you have this pandemic just pop up on us out of the air. I mean, that is why sometimes you have to just plan what year by year. No, maybe you can't even plan 5 years around if things gonna be popping up like that. But I'm hoping that we could have those things going. But like I say, people would really have to come in and really make the contribution necessary and hope that we as the people in the parish will put things together and move forward.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to also touch on the issue of the
Yeah.
facilities because we do have the mini stadium at Cuddle Peters Park with the basketball facility. But I mean, obviously, as someone who has been around for all these years around these, that those facilities, you will
Mm.
think that some upgrading of the
Well,
facility
we
and
have
decent.
one. We still have the facility. I don't know what it's doing up still because most of the floor is dilapidated. That building should have come down already. It's been there. It was built since 1955. That is the whole pavilion. I mean, it's an ISO for us because stuff falling off, right? That I've asked on numerous occasions why it's not taken down. It's just there with no reason. It's just there, and it could damage somebody when they're going out on the field to play. We still have not completed. We need to complete the pavilion. We have they're waiting on seating. They said that since 2016, I think we're still waiting on seating. They have not done the transfer of the electricity. Is not done properly. I don't think we have a meter on the building. I mean, we have so much things to get done in the parish. Still, like I tell you, that's my fourth attempt at trying to get a covered facility, and the covered facility wouldn't only be for basketball, but it goes soccer, netball, volleyball, a number of other things. So you need to have that with the rain pouring in as it does these days. You really need to get something covered so at least people could continue to train. Even the footballers, sometimes they can't go out and they feel too much rain. They could come and do the conditioning and stuff indoors. So we really need to get these things going along with the other programs that we need to have in schools and things like that. It called for some work, but I think we could do it. We just have to use the resources that we have, make sure it's distributed properly, and work along with the people and them there and see how it goes from there.
And what's about other facilities in the parish? Because I mean, it's more. centralized in Gouyave
Well,
itself.
I'm glad you raised that, because we had a little thing in Concord as a code. We have power packing ground, right? But these are all small grounds. I think they have a ground in Concord as well. You have a little one in Lorry too. Montgramby needs some work on it. So you still have you still have some work, to be done with those fields, because those fields used to produce the players, and eventually they would come into Cuthbert Peters, where you have that level of activity. But most of those, I mean, if the central facility is struggling that much, I mean, could you imagine what happened to the other facilities?
I'm laughing at what you're saying, and I'm also
Yeah.
laughing at some of the comments.
Okay.
I
I
think I
mean,
laugh at this one.
you say, or Ajay says in Jesus. Okay, maybe it might be better if he says since Rock of Ages was a pebble. Well, we still have something that we could use. I mean, we tried to make the best use of it. Like I tell you, we're still waiting for it since 2016. I hope it arrives soon.
But and in a nutshell, in summarize,
Yeah.
there is hope for the parish in terms of sports.
Well, there is always hope. I mean, like one guy tell me, you could live in hope and you might bury in Maki, but there is always hope. You always have to have hope. I mean, that's the most you could do. I mean, with the time that you have here, the time that is allotted to you, I mean, you just have to do what's positive, and hope that somebody. I mean, you can't bother about whether somebody's going to pick up the mantle or somebody. You just do what you have to do, and just roll with it. you know, and that's it. At the end of the day, I mean, when the time region, I guess I could sit back like you in the US and have a jolly good time and laugh at some of the children playing sports out there, without me making any contribution in any serious way.
The Naka I knew,
Yeah.
from since then is the same Naka. I
But
can
it's the same thing, you could add what you want on the organism, like I say, you just go fool yourself really, because I mean it's a real peaceful organism, and once you come to that understanding, like you say, there's nothing really there to add or whatever. I don't want to get into that kind of semantics really. We just stay away from that.
I really,
But yeah.
I really appreciate the chat with you, the discussion with you, Naka, and
Thank you, thank you.
hopefully we can continue it another time, because especially that
Sure.
issue on sports administration, and there's also a discussion we are planning regarding the sports media, sports reporting, sports journalism, its role in sports development. Especially get at what we have now, because the argument I was making is that compared to the 90s and even the early 2000s, when you look at it now in terms of the internet and the use of the internet, the use of how you can make things happen with that, compared to then when we just had the telephone line per se. I think it's much easier to get things done now than it was then before, because it means that to get Naka I have to get Naka on the phone, or I have to go to meet Naka, or I have to bring Naka down to the studio. Now I can just press a button and Naka can come up on my screen, and we can do this and do that. Instant technology,
Yeah.
instant communication. So the point I'm making is that
That's how the communication going, but we
right.
don't have it instant. We don't have it instant in the other areas. So
Well,
I don't know how we're gonna get
that's what,
technology lends itself to a lot of things, but in those areas,
Mhm.
technology and working in that area, I could tell you that.
well,
So
yeah,
you
and
have to,
I was making,
I wish it had, but
and
2020 and we're still struggling.
yeah, and I was making the point in the context of sports
Mm.
administrators, not necessarily you, because you have always been, as I said, every time I speak to you, and since I was in Grenada and speaking to you, you have always been outright and forthright in terms of what you're saying. You don't hide to say what you're saying. You have been repeating that. But I'm saying that those who are representing the various organizations, the various associations at the national level, should be making these points out, and knowing for a fact that the lack of effective sports reporting in Grenada, you can't really depend on the sports media. The show now is probably a talk show, probably the politics, not necessarily sports. As someone told me what day it was, they looked at sports on one of the television stations, and the entire segment was regional and international sports. Entire
But
segment.
so you stop. This is why I asked you earlier. So it seems as though you stop look at Grenada sports. You're not even looking at us now.
Well, no, well, except for now, which I'm off my
uh,
day-to-day duties at that time. I'm normally at work. So I
yeah,
don't get a chance to look. So
yeah.
I could not have seen it, but they told me
So that
about it.
no, that's correct. I mean, and again, you see, sports is as such that when you again everything is budget, right? So I guess if they're cutting back and stuff, they're cutting budget, and then the first thing that goes to go is the sports department. So maybe they don't using if you don't have. I don't sure if they have a sports department like somebody to go around and deal with the whole question of collecting sports like what you would have been doing, have somebody in the department to try and get stuff, get information. So you have sports on an ongoing basis every day. But if that is not done, then like you say, then we go have to go over to TV6 in the evening. I mean, I guess I've not been watching much of MTV sports, so I don't know exactly what the coverage is there. I guess they would be doing local, I guess, because they don't have that link up with any foreign entity. But yeah, again, you could just hope that something could turn around. And you see, it's always a problem. It's similar in politics as well. You see, if the person, most of the time you hear people crying out and saying that they're marginalized because they tend to oppose the authority in one way or the other. The same thing is happening in sports. Now, if maybe you might be in a position to help with getting funding in the diaspora, maybe if the federations and them were able to have the funding for themselves, then they don't need to go to the agencies and them to ask for no funding. They'll just be able to run the thing without asking for much funding. And that is one of the things that happened to us recently is that Dr. Tristan Smith, who happened to be one of the guys who used to be scoring for me, he never was a player really, and he used to be on the table or whatever. He's now the senior cardiologist in Wheeling Hospital. And he, for the last couple of years, would make a contribution towards the basketball in St. John. So we have ongoing senior competitions and also junior competitions, and also we had the Western Championships as well as something that we added. So if the people in the diaspora could come together, in one way or the other, because I didn't only do the book really. I don't only see the book as providing information on sports in St. John's per se, but also as a foreign exchange honor as well. Because one of the things we even having is that when you go to some of the things like some of the big companies as Amazon and them, if we had local people in the diaspora working together as a unit, then most of the stuff from Grenada could be shipped to that point, and then Grenadians in all the other states could just link up there and all the funding, and then we could have those monies coming back, because that is one way of doing things. So we hoping that all these things and them could be set up going forward, and we could have a better link between the diaspora, because I've been trying to get teams from colleges and things to come down again, and the same links that you need. So I just hope that maybe you could do a good job for us, seeing that you're up there, in terms of linking people in the diaspora, because we have a couple of people that have done well, and if they could make a contribution to sport. And also they don't have to be afraid, because one of the things that we started doing lately that a lot of people used to complain about is the whole question of accountability. So what happened over the last couple of years is that we try to ensure in the committee that's responsible for the basketball is that whenever we do a competition, that the funding is there, so that you do the necessary statement and you have an accountant go through it, and then I'll provide that thing to the companies and them that contribute, so the people know exactly how their monies are being spent, what is what, if we make profit, how much profit we make, and then they could see the profit being used in other things. So they don't have to be afraid in diaspora to make contributions, whether it's to the sports council or whoever. They could do that, and also because they is a non-profit organization, they could also get a receipt, and they could have the accountants and thing get a tax break, I think, as a result of that, because other people does that up there. So they don't have to be afraid to come together and set that up and make contribution towards down here and use it as a tax break. And we could move forward with that once we have the necessary funding. I mean, that could ease off some of the pressures that we're going through in terms of trying to go through the same source for funding every time. So I'm just hoping that people in the diaspora who are listening could think about doing such, because the monies, when they send it to the sports council in St. John's, or whether the basketball or wherever, we go ensure that it is accounted for, and they would get a report so they know exactly what is happening to the funding.
Yeah, I think it's a point well made, and as Clev is saying, a diaspora sports adoption link, which is very key. But as you indicated, the confidence, the confidence of the people in the diaspora will rely a lot on the issue of accountability and transparency.
Well, like I just said, we have that. They have a accountant that is a good friend of mine, and we do most of the reporting. It so once they're ready, sure, no problem.
Okay, then. Well, good to know. And as I want to thank you once again, Naka, for the
No problem.
contribution you have made, not just to the program, but the contribution you have made in terms of sports in Grenada, and especially in the parish of St. John. And I hope through your retirement professionally, but as you said, you're still with basketball, you're still with sports, that you will continue and use it, as Kali Glean Jr. said, as an inspiration to others, especially in the issue of sports administration. And hopefully when we doing the program or programs relating to sports administration and sports media, that I will have you as part of making a contribution to that program as well. I hope that
Thank you.
invitation extended to you, and I look forward to you being on a future program.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. And take care of yourself. I mean, I think you're doing a great job. It's nice to see that you have sports back on track. I mean, you're doing what you could do in this circumstance, and I think it's a good thing that people could now link in again and get some feedback on sports. It's a pity that you have to do it from so far away, but at least the technology is helping us to do that. And hope that you could talk to other people as well, and let me see whatever way we could really work for sports and try to keep the Grenada flag flying.
Okay, then, and just before Naka leaves us, just to let you know that come next week, we'll be speaking to para athlete Ishana Charles as she prepares for the Paralympics in 2021, what should have been 2020 Paralympics. And we also, the following week, which is on the 27th, we will be speaking to professional basketballers Akin Robinson and Daniel Regis. They will be on the program, and they will bring an end to the program for the month of August, and into September we'll start off with the Ministry of Sports, where we expect to have the coordinator of sports, and possibly we'll have the minister, but the coordinator of sports expect to join us on the first program in September.
That would be great.
I know.
To have the coordinator on, yeah.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you again, Mike.
Yeah, thank you very much, Naka.
And, anytime.
Yeah. Okay, then.
All right. Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you once again, folks. This is our program for this week, and the invitation is yours to join us on next Thursday from 6:30, where we'll be speaking with para-athlete Ishana Charles. On Saturday, our special program continues, a special edition continues with Sir Walter St. John, he was one of the longest serving sports administrator in Grenada, and he gave over 40 years plus in sports administration in Grenada. We'll be speaking to Sir Walter St. John. He was a former president of the Grenada Cricket Association. He was one time the former president of the Grenada Football Association. He was one time former president of the Grenada Basketball Association, and he was also the chairman of the National Sports Council back in those days. So Walter St. John will join us hopefully on Saturday in our Saturday Sports Special program. Folks, that's our program for this week. Thank you once and all, and do join us on Saturday and then on Thursday. Good night.